The galactic warriors moved silently through the cold night air, their cloaking shields fully activated. Confident and undetected, they moved like shadows, invisible to any human eye or technology. These warriors had taken down countless species across galaxies, and they thought Earth would be no different, a quiet, unremarkable conquest. They looked down on humanity, dismissing it as primitive, with technology that barely scraped the edge of what they'd mastered eons ago. Earth's military radar? Useless against their advanced systems. Their weapons? Barely more than toys in the eyes of the galactic warriors. For these cloaked beings, who had made invisibility into a perfect science, this mission was almost boring. To them, it was not a battle but an exercise in asserting dominance. They moved with silent arrogance, sure of their place as supreme beings, believing no force on Earth could touch them. As they infiltrated the human defense bases, they toyed with their environment, shifting small objects and activating sensors, leaving faint traces to make Earth's defenders nervous. It amused them to imagine the humans scrambling, looking around cluelessly. A faint distortion here, a flicker there, enough to remind any human of their vulnerability. For these warriors, it was a game. They knew that, if necessary, they could eliminate every human soldier on the base in a matter of minutes. They relished in their own superiority, their minds set on a quick sweep of Earth. Cloaked and practically invisible, they felt invincible. But as they neared their target zones, something changed. A strange tension crept into the air. One of the warriors sensed it first, a prickling awareness, a feeling of being watched. He brushed it off as nerves, but the sense of unease wouldn't go away. Soon others felt it too, though they refused to admit it aloud. After all, how could anyone see them? Just as one warrior moved slightly out of formation, a sharp, high-pitched sound broke the silence, a single gunshot, unlike any they had heard before. The sound was piercing, echoing through the dark, and in an instant, one of their comrades collapsed. Panic hit the group, a mix of confusion and disbelief. How was this possible? Their cloaking technology was flawless, their armor impenetrable. And yet, a single human bullet had cut through all that. For a moment, they stood frozen. It wasn't fear, at least not yet. It was the shock of a threat they couldn't comprehend. Their leader barked orders, trying to regain control, but the shock lingered, gnawing at their confidence. They scanned the surroundings, searching for signs of the attacker, but found nothing. No human should have been able to see them, let alone strike with such precision. One by one, they activated their scanning devices, seeking any irregular heat signatures or movement. But there was nothing, only the darkness and the echo of that single gunshot. The silence felt heavy now, and the air grew colder. The warriors had been trained to read the battlefield, to notice subtle changes in atmosphere, and something was different here. It was as if the very ground was warning them, urging them to leave, to abandon this mission before it was too late. Their leader tried to brush it off as a lucky shot, an anomaly. But deep down, he knew this was something else. He adjusted his stance, signaling the others to spread out. They would locate this hidden threat and eliminate it quickly. They resumed their advance, weapons at the ready, every sense heightened. Minutes passed, and just as they were beginning to believe that the threat had vanished, another shot rang out, and another warrior fell, dropping silently into the darkness. This time, the panic was real, spreading quickly through the group. They whispered in hushed tones, questioning how this was happening. How was a mere human able to pinpoint them, to see through their cloaking as if it didn't exist? The feeling of invincibility began to fade, replaced by a creeping sense of vulnerability. For the first time, the galactic warriors felt the unfamiliar weight of fear. In a strange way, this lone human sniper had achieved the impossible. He had made them question their supremacy. They had never encountered an opponent who could make them feel like prey, like hunted animals on their own mission. They tried to regroup, to establish a defensive stance, but every movement felt exposed, every shadow a potential hiding spot for this unseen enemy. Their technology, which they once believed was unmatched, seemed useless. They couldn't locate him, couldn't track his movements, and every time they thought they were safe, another shot proved them wrong. As they huddled, desperately analyzing their next move, a realization began to settle in. This wasn't just a human with a lucky shot. This was someone trained, someone who understood them better than they understood him. The Galactic warriors were shaken. As they moved through the dark, silent base, it became clear this was not the quick conquest they'd expected. Another of their group fell to the sniper's bullet, hitting the ground without a sound. The realization spread among them: this wasn't luck. It was strategy, and someone knew exactly where to strike. They felt a growing tension, a foreign feeling for a force used to dominating without question. They regrouped, pulling back to reassess, their leader scanning the landscape with heightened focus. They tried to make sense of this invisible threat, knowing that every second they remained exposed could mean another death. They activated advanced sensors, thermal detectors, anything that could help them catch a trace of this unseen opponent. But the readings came up empty. It was as if their attacker was a ghost, moving with skill and precision they hadn't anticipated. The leader signaled a new formation, one designed for maximum visibility and protection. They moved as a tightly knit unit, scanning every direction, their weapons ready. But with every step, they felt watched, tracked, as if this sniper could anticipate their moves before they even made them. For the Galactic warriors, this was an unsettling and rare experience: vulnerability. The sniper, hidden somewhere in the shadows, held his ground, unseen and unyielding. Each shot was a calculated message, not just a strike but a demonstration of control. The Galactic warriors, so accustomed to intimidating their foes, now felt that power turned against them. It was as if the rules had changed, as if their technology, their cloaking, meant nothing. They moved more slowly, cautiously, straining to pick up the slightest indication of where this sniper might be. Every sound, every movement in the distance set them on edge. They began to whisper among themselves, debating how to handle this enemy. Their leader tried to keep them steady, reminding them of their mission, their superiority. But the words felt hollow, their confidence eroded by the continued silence and the threat of another attack. One warrior attempted to scan again, hoping that their devices had simply missed something the first time. But the readings were still blank. Frustration grew. They had faced countless species, yet none had been able to evade their technology this way. With each passing moment, the thought settled in: they were dealing with someone who knew exactly what they were up against, and how to counter it. Suddenly, a faint movement caught their attention, a flicker in the distance. They turned, weapons raised, ready to strike. But when they fired, there was nothing, just an empty space where they thought the sniper might be. It was a distraction, a clever trick to draw them out, and it worked. They felt exposed, vulnerable. The realization hit them with unexpected force. This was someone who could not only see them but was using their own instincts against them. Their leader called for a retreat to a new position, somewhere that offered more cover. They moved quickly, attempting to outsmart the sniper by changing direction. But even as they retreated, the feeling of being watched lingered, growing stronger. It was as if the sniper was always one step ahead, anticipating their every move. For the Galactic warriors, this was a new, chilling reality. They were used to being the hunters, yet here they were, hunted by a single, unseen human. Each warrior began to rethink their assumptions. They had thought Earth was a simple conquest, a minor mission. Now, they wondered if they had underestimated humanity's resilience, or if this sniper was simply an exception, a solitary figure who defied everything they understood. They had no way of knowing, but as they crouched low, keeping silent and alert, it no longer mattered. The pressure mounted, and the group's tension grew with each passing second. They were skilled fighters, elite in their ranks, but against this opponent, their training felt inadequate. They began to sense that this sniper knew the land better than they did, using it to his advantage, drawing them in and striking when they least expected it. They attempted one last strategy, setting up a decoy in hopes of luring the sniper out of hiding. They waited, watching the area where they'd placed it, weapons trained and ready. Time stretched on, and just as they began to think it had worked, another shot rang out, not at the decoy but from behind, taking down another warrior. The sniper had seen through their plan, outmaneuvering them once more. As the group dwindled, they felt the weight of defeat press upon them, a feeling they'd never before experienced. For a species so certain of their superiority, the sting of vulnerability was bitter. The leader's voice, once confident, now held a trace of uncertainty as he instructed the last few to hold their ground. They would wait, hoping the sniper would reveal himself. But deep down, they knew this was unlikely. The sniper remained unseen, an unstoppable force working silently from the shadows. The Galactic warriors, reduced in numbers and shaken in resolve, knew now they were dealing with more than just a human soldier. This was someone who defied their expectations, a force they couldn't comprehend. The Galactic warriors, fewer in number and shaken, recalibrated their tactics, intent on neutralizing the sniper who had shattered their confidence. Their leader ordered an immediate deployment of advanced tracking drones, each equipped with motion sensors and thermal imaging. They cast the area in a web of detection fields, covering every possible angle. If this sniper had somehow bypassed their cloaking technology, he wouldn't evade the combined force of their devices. But even as the drones scanned, the warriors struggled to shake an unsettling feeling that the sniper anticipated their every move. They adjusted their formation, covering one another, leaving no space unguarded. Each warrior heightened their vigilance, knowing that any misstep could be their last. The air felt thick with an unseen presence, an invisible threat pressing down on them, keeping them on edge. Despite the drones, despite the technology, there was nothing. The sniper had melted back into the landscape, as silent and hidden as before. Suddenly, a piercing shot broke through the quiet, and another warrior dropped. It was a clean, precise strike, expertly timed. Shock rippled through the group. Even their drones failed to detect any movement. They reassessed everything they knew about their technology, questioning how this sniper had slipped past their sensors so easily. With every calculated strike, the sniper showed his mastery, forcing the Galactic warriors to recognize the limits of their once trusted tools. In a desperate response, they turned to countermeasures designed for infiltration missions. They released smoke canisters to create barriers, thinking it might disrupt the sniper's line of sight. But the sniper's responses showed no delay. He continued his silent assault, undeterred by their efforts. The smoke cleared, revealing another fallen warrior. The remaining warriors, frustrated and unnerved, realized the sniper was playing with them, adapting with an ease they had not anticipated. As their numbers dwindled, the Galactic warriors experienced an unfamiliar sensation: fear. Their leader ordered tighter formations, yet the tactical advantage they once believed they held had vanished. Every shift in position, every attempt to counter the sniper's methods, seemed futile. They were facing an opponent who anticipated their responses before they even knew them themselves. Forced into defensive postures, the warriors grew desperate, deploying high-frequency sound waves designed to locate any hidden enemies. Yet the sound waves returned only empty echoes, as if the sniper had vanished entirely. The warriors began to realize he was not just elusive, he was methodical, stripping away their defenses layer by layer. With each shot, he seemed to study them, unraveling their strategies as if it were second nature. They were left grasping at straws, their leader's voice betraying an edge of frustration as he barked commands. He ordered his remaining troops to fall back and regroup, hoping to lure the sniper into a trap by doubling their efforts to appear vulnerable. But the sniper stayed hidden, watching, waiting. The Galactic warriors had never encountered an enemy who could not only evade them but dismantle their tactics with such precision. The sniper's approach was relentless, his patience unbreakable. Hours passed, and the Galactic warriors, exhausted and wary, felt the sniper closing in on them from every angle. Their reliance on technology had been their strength in countless battles, yet here, against this hidden marksman, it had become their weakness. Each high-tech attempt to locate him failed, and each failed attempt tightened his psychological grip on them. In one final attempt to root him out, they deployed a false target, an imitation of one of their own, hoping to catch the sniper's attention and draw him into the open. They huddled in silence, weapons trained on the decoy, waiting for the slightest sign of the sniper's position. They felt the tension build, every second amplifying their anticipation. Then a shot rang out, but it didn't hit the decoy. Instead, it struck a warrior hidden in cover, taking him out with ruthless precision. The sniper had once again seen through their tactic, maintaining his dominance over the situation. The Galactic warriors, now reduced to a mere handful, were forced to accept that this human was beyond their control. He had stripped away every advantage they believed they held, turning their technology and arrogance against them. Their leader's confidence had crumbled, his strategies useless against an opponent who had outmatched them at every turn. The remaining warriors, burdened by fatigue and fear, knew they had little hope left. As they pulled back, retreating to what they hoped was a safer position, they realized the sniper's skill was more than just marksmanship. It was an art of psychological warfare, an ability to make them doubt, to feel hunted. For the Galactic warriors, this sniper represented an unyielding force, and they were caught in a battle they hadn't been prepared to face. They held their positions, desperately trying to maintain some semblance of control. But deep down, they understood the truth. They were outmatched, their supposed invincibility shattered. The sniper had not only proven their technology inadequate but had broken their spirit, leaving them with a sense of vulnerability they had never known before. They were no longer warriors on a mission but targets in a game they couldn't win, facing an adversary who defied everything they believed. The Galactic warriors were down to their last strategy. This time, their leader gathered the survivors and crafted a plan to trap the sniper, pooling every remaining resource. The objective was simple: eliminate this invisible human threat before more lives were lost. They deployed every remaining high-tech device, creating an elaborate detection grid that covered a wide radius. Their leader outlined specific positions for each warrior, hoping to force the sniper into revealing himself. Despite their dwindling numbers, their discipline held as they followed these instructions to the letter. The warriors activated their last defensive measures, surrounding their position with a wall of sonic barriers and electromagnetic pulses. If the sniper approached, they would know. They readied their weapons, training them on every potential vantage point. Silence reigned, broken only by the low hum of their tech as it scanned, observed, and waited. The strategy was flawless in theory, designed to prevent any living being from moving undetected. They placed every piece of equipment meticulously, covering any possible gaps. The grid was set, and now they waited for the trap to spring. Hours passed, with no movement, no sound, just the weight of their own breathing. They began to wonder if the sniper had finally retreated, but caution kept them in place. Despite the lack of any sighting, they held their formation, unwilling to let their guard down. Yet, the strain of the standoff began to wear on them. As time dragged on, tension built. Each warrior felt the weight of the unknown, the fear that the sniper was watching, unseen, even with their defenses in place. Just as their patience began to wane, a subtle disruption flickered on one of their sensors. A slight anomaly, barely perceptible, but enough to set them on edge. The leader gave a silent signal, directing them to shift their positions and prepare to converge on the disturbance. They adjusted their aim, nerves taut, waiting for a sign. Moments passed, and then, another sensor flickered, but this time on the opposite side of their formation. Confusion rippled through the warriors as they recalibrated, realizing that the sniper was using decoys, disrupting their readings. The sniper was there, manipulating their technology, keeping them guessing. They knew now he was deliberately drawing them out, using the very grid they'd built against them. Frustration set in. Every attempt to pinpoint him only revealed another carefully placed trick. They tried to counter, reconfiguring their sensors, but each adjustment played into his hands. Their leader barked orders to adapt, directing his remaining warriors to abandon the sensor reliance and switch to visual surveillance. The warriors strained their eyes in the dim light, searching for the faintest movement, but the sniper's evasive tactics made him untraceable. They couldn't deny it anymore. He was dismantling their strategy piece by piece, as if reading their minds. One of the warriors, determined to end this, broke formation, advancing toward a shadowy area where he suspected the sniper might be hiding. But just as he moved, a single shot echoed, taking him down. The remaining warriors held their positions, realizing that they'd been baited, lured into yet another trap. The sniper had anticipated their impatience, using it against them. Their leader clenched his fists, sensing the sniper's relentless advantage. The trap they'd set had become their own, as the sniper exploited every flaw in their plan. He moved with a calculated precision that defied their technology, as if he understood every angle, every weakness. They knew now that every time they changed tactics, he adapted faster, predicting their next move. Each failed attempt reinforced the chilling truth: he was not just skilled but relentless, a hunter who showed no mercy. The leader's voice broke through, strained and low, urging the last warriors to hold steady. They fell back, seeking cover, trying to regroup. Yet the sniper seemed to anticipate even this, maintaining his control over the situation. His tactics were ruthless and systematic, wearing them down without ever revealing his position. For the Galactic warriors, survival was now their only goal, abandoning any thought of victory. They crouched low, hearts pounding, waiting for the inevitable. They couldn't see him, couldn't hear him, but they felt his presence, an invisible force pressing down on them. Every movement was calculated, every shot meticulously placed. The sniper was no longer just a soldier in their eyes, he was an unstoppable force, mastering their fear, stripping them of their will to fight. In the silence that followed, they understood their mission had failed. The leader, once certain of their supremacy, felt the crushing reality of defeat. He had never encountered an enemy like this, a human who defied logic, whose skill rendered their technology useless. The Galactic warriors, who had never known fear, now tasted the bitter edge of it. They had come to conquer but found themselves conquered, not by a force of numbers but by a single, unyielding human sniper. With only a handful of warriors remaining, they withdrew, retreating from the field. The sniper had broken them, not through force but through mastery, through an unrelenting resolve that outmatched every tactic they'd devised. As they retreated, they felt the weight of their defeat, a reminder that their superiority was not infallible. They had been bested, not by weapons or technology, but by a mind they couldn't predict, a skill they couldn't counter. For the Galactic warriors, this mission had turned from conquest to survival, a battle they had lost long before they'd realized it. The sniper remained hidden, watching their retreat, a silent victor over a force that had never known loss. The mission had failed, but the memory of this human would remain, a warning etched in their minds, an adversary who had redefined their understanding of strength, proving that true power lay not in numbers, but in mastery. The Galactic warriors, now reduced to only a handful of survivors, faced an undeniable truth: they were no longer hunters but the hunted. This mission had become a relentless game of survival, and their only option was retreat. The leader, a figure once brimming with certainty, felt the weight of defeat as he signaled his remaining warriors to pull back. They moved with caution, their once firm resolve now a fractured memory, leaving behind the battlefield that had become their trap. The remnants of their team moved toward their extraction point, keeping every sense sharp, aware that any misstep could mean annihilation. As they retreated, the silence around them was oppressive, amplifying every distant sound, each shadow that seemed to shift. They knew the sniper was still watching, somewhere, unseen yet all too present. His precision and skill had proven unbreakable, forcing them to abandon every shred of their arrogance. They had come prepared to overwhelm but instead found themselves systematically stripped of every advantage. Upon reaching their extraction point, the survivors established a final perimeter. The leader activated their emergency signal, calling for immediate retrieval. They could feel the tension in the air, an awareness that even this last step was not guaranteed. Every movement, every attempt to find security was haunted by the knowledge that the sniper could still be out there, waiting for the final blow. In their final moments on this field, they awaited their transport, which had been delayed due to the unexpected chaos. Each survivor stood ready, weapons drawn, as they surveyed their surroundings. The silence grew, stretching the seconds into minutes, an unending weight that pressed down on them. The extraction ship finally appeared in the distance, a beacon of escape, yet each of them remained wary. Even now, the possibility of an unseen shot loomed over them, a reminder of their vulnerability. As they boarded the extraction ship, the leader gave the command for immediate takeoff. His voice, though steady, held a note of weariness and shame, a clear departure from the confidence he had commanded at the start of the mission. This once routine conquest had turned into a nightmarish confrontation with a single human adversary who had single-handedly dismantled their forces. During the ascent, they maintained silence. Each warrior was lost in their own thoughts, processing the relentless hunt they had just escaped. For beings who had never known true defeat, this retreat was more than a setback. It was a revelation. The memory of the sniper's precision haunted them, a reminder that their supremacy was not as absolute as they had believed. They had faced an opponent who defied their technology, their numbers, and their every tactic, reducing them to fearful survivors. As they broke through Earth's atmosphere, the leader transmitted a report back to their command center. The message was brief but clear. Earth was defended by forces that could not be measured by conventional standards. He outlined the sniper's skill, his unmatched ability to see through their cloaking, and the relentless psychological toll he'd inflicted on their team. This encounter had shifted the perception of Earth from an easy conquest to a place of caution, a potential threat that merited greater respect. The command center acknowledged the report with a mixture of disbelief and caution. They had anticipated success, expecting only minor resistance. Now they faced a sobering account of failure. A single human who had outmaneuvered an elite force, something that defied their understanding of warfare. The leader of the Galactic warriors, aware of the impact his report would have, felt a mixture of shame and relief. He had preserved his team's lives, but at the cost of acknowledging their vulnerability. As the transmission concluded, the surviving warriors shared a silent understanding. They had been beaten, not by an army, but by one person who had changed the course of their mission. This defeat was not one they would forget. The sniper had not just protected Earth, he had sent a message, one that would echo through the ranks of the Galactic warriors. The memory of his precision, his unbreakable resolve, would serve as a reminder that they had faced an adversary unlike any they had encountered before. As the ship moved further from Earth, the leader took a final glance back at the planet. It looked small, unassuming from this distance, but he knew better now. Earth held defenders with skills they had vastly underestimated, and that realization shifted something fundamental within him. This experience would mark a turning point, not just for him but for every galactic warrior who had survived. They would return to their command center, not as triumphant conquerors, but as warriors humbled by a lone human who had outmatched them at every step. The extraction ship carried them home, a vessel of survivors rather than victors. Each warrior bore the scars of this battle, not in physical wounds but in the memory of a force that had rendered them powerless. This sniper's legacy would follow them, a silent testament to Earth's unexpected strength. They had learned that superiority was not defined by technology alone, and sometimes, a single skilled opponent could shake the foundation of an empire's confidence. Back on their home planet, the warriors would undergo debriefing, a thorough examination of every tactical failure they had encountered. Their leaders would analyze the data, seeking to understand how one human had overpowered an elite team. But no analysis would capture the intangible dread, the sense of being hunted that each survivor had felt. The sniper had shown them that they were not invincible, that underestimating an opponent could lead to ruin. For the Galactic warriors, this mission would be remembered as a turning point, a story of unexpected defeat that would ripple through their ranks. They would return to their training grounds, more cautious, more aware of the limits of their own strength. Earth, once dismissed as an easy target, would become a place marked by the memory of a lone sniper who had rewritten the rules of engagement. The extraction ship completed its journey, delivering the Galactic warriors back to their world. As they disembarked, they each felt the lingering shadow of the sniper, a presence that would stay with them long after they'd left Earth. They had faced an adversary who had shown them that courage, precision, and patience could defeat even the most advanced technology. In the end, they returned not as the warriors they had once been, but as survivors marked by the humbling realization that true strength lay in skill, not in numbers.